Alright, the anniversary update is live. I'm on my guildmate DISLYTE's account and he's already gotten Meta Eira at R0. So I'm gonna do a mini showcase on her. But before that, TK did give me 10 gift codes. So if you want the gift code, just put your Discord ID in the comments. Or if you don't have a Discord, just put your email there. And in the next video, I'll randomly choose the 10 lucky winners. The gift code is 5 gold records and I think a few experiments as well. So yeah, make sure you put your Discord ID or your email in the comment section. Alright, so I've done a bit of testing for Meta Eira in Shadowfire and Shadowglow. And she is absolutely busted. So for Shadowfire, I managed to get a score of 2.9 billion. Now there's going to be two teams I'm going to show you, one with a Shuanpin and one without, because it does depend on whether you have R2 Shuanpin or not. So for the first team, if you don't have an R2 Shuanpin, you can run Alice. Una's Resonance is not a must, but his R2 is very good because you'll have a higher uptime on your attack buff. His R6 is not needed, but with his R6, you'll get an average of about 300 million more. But even without his R6, you should be able to hit 1 billion average. And also Ggez's Resonance does not matter. She just needs to be R0 with max scale up as 3. And Meta Eira's Divinate is at D3. She's going to be on Astral, and it's really important for you to have her S3 maxed out. Your Sloan is going to be on Thunder, Set, and Brawler. Again, Unas is going to be very important because you need to AP boost your team with his S1, which can be done with his R0. And Alice is really important as well because you need to perform more assists on her S1 so that you can call Sloan for assist. So you're going to be putting Eira on the second slot, not in the front slot, because you want her to have the Secondo buff. That way she can give all of your allies 30% more damage on their S1. And most importantly, she's going to be spamming her S3, which will then calls in all allies in PVE for assist. I'm going to show you a couple of runs with Alice, and it should be pretty easy for you to break 1 billion even without R6 Unas. Without R6 Unas, your score will be around like maybe 900 to 1 billion. There we go, 1.3 billion. I think just now I got a 1.5 billion. Again, this is without Shuanpin. But if you do have a Shuanpin, then 2 billion score is really easy. There we go, 1.6 billion. So when it comes to Meta Eira, she is really good with a team that has really high S1 damage. Like Sloan, Elif, or even Lapis can do a lot of damage with her S1, which I'll show you in Shadowglow later. And she's going to be really good with units that can also call other allies for assist, like for example Alice or Shuanpin. That's the reason why you either want to run Shuanpin or Alice in this team. Again, if you don't have R2 Shuanpin, then you can substitute her for Alice. But if you do have an R2 Shuanpin, she's definitely going to be an upgrade for this team. Because Shuanpin also provides you with the Chariot buff and also the Horse buff, which will then give you more damage as well, right? And her S1 will also AP push the ally with the Horse buff or Chariot buff. That's also very important. But if you have an R0 Shuanpin, your score can definitely be hindered by a lot, because if she ends up stunning your Sloan by using her S2 onto your Sloan, that's hundreds of millions of damage just gone like that. Meta Eira with Astral Set can go S3 onto S3, because if you have her S3 maxed out, it only has a 5-turn cooldown, and whenever an ally casts their basic ability, it doesn't matter if it's outside of their turns or during their turn, it will reduce her cooldown on her S3 by 1 turn. So since I have 5 allies in the battlefield, she will pretty much reduce her S3 cooldown to 0. And when you proc an Astral, she'll have a 0 turn cooldown on her S3, and she'll use her S3 once again. So you can pretty much do a full team assist twice. Now this team can definitely be better if you have an R2 Eira, because she can stack up the cadence buff faster. Whenever your allies do an S1, she will stack it up 2 times faster. Alright, so here I proc Astral on Meta Eira, and she goes back to back into her S3. So I can call all of my teammates for assist 2 times. Now the reason why you don't need to run Liam anymore for this team, for Shadowfire in specific, is because your Sloan, even if she dies, she will recast her S3 because of the Eidetic buff. So she has a second life. And Meta Eira will not die as long as she's not the last unit in the battlefield. Because of this buff right here, the carrier is immune to damage until they're the last one standing. And Ggez, she also has a second life, so you can put her in the front. Even if she dies, the best case scenario, she dies and then she casts her S3, so you can stack up her S3 faster. But even if she doesn't die, you'll still have enough time to stack up her passive or her S3 to max, because you have Unas in your team. Again, Unas does not need to be at R6. R6 does help a lot, about 300 million average damage. But if you don't have an R6 Unas, you either have an R0 or R2, you can still pretty easily get 1 billion average. So for now, Meta Eira at R0, she's not really the DPS of the team because she doesn't really do that much damage. Her S3 is only about 240% multiplier, and she's only going to be spamming her S3, right? But once you get her to maybe like R1 then you can run her with like DPS set. But for now, you just want her to be on the fastest Astral set and just disregard all of the DPS stats. Because the faster that she can cycle, the more turns that you can cast her S3 and the more turns that you can assist with your entire team. So if you put your Sloan in the front right here, she can sometimes assist twice within one S3 cast of Meta Eira. Because the first one, she's gonna cast assist, and then when Alice casts her S1, she can also call in your Sloan for another assist. 1.5 billion on Sloan. Meta Eira did 700 million. She's not going to be the main DPS of the team. She's mostly just going to be a support for her S3 assist and also for the S1 damage increase for your entire allies. Alright, now let me show you with the Shren Pin where you can get upwards of almost 3 billion damage. If you have an R4 Meta Eira, it should be pretty easy to get 4 billion damage. The most important resonance is going to be R2 Shren Pin, not her R6. And no one is going to be on the Harmony set. You can put your Lu Sheng on the Harmony set if you want to. The score is about the same. And then your Shren Pin is going to be on Fast Relief set. I'm going to do 2 Blitz on this one. It does take a really long time for you to do even 1 Blitz, because this team has a lot of assist. It takes a really long time for the run to finish. The highest I've seen is 2.9 billion. Yeah, there we go, 2.1 billion. I'll go one more time. And also, I forgot to mention, they have uncapped Desolate Lands. So now if you go above 1 billion, your score is still calculated in the leaderboard system. Whereas back then, it was more like first come, first serve. Whoever reached like 1 billion average first is pretty much uncontested, right? Alright, I got a 2.1 billion. Let's just take a look at this run. Obviously, Shren Pin is going to be an upgrade to Alice. But the main reason why Shren Pin is way better than Alice is because of her chariot buff and also the horse buff. And also, her S1 will AP push multiple allies. That's really important for the team to cycle properly, because allies with the chariot buff or with the horse buff will get AP pushed by Shren Pin's S1, right? Whereas if you were to run Alice, only the ally that assisted will get AP push. Alright, this is actually taking forever. I'm just gonna skip it and see the damage layout. And once again, Sloan did 2 billion by herself and Meta Eira did 100 million. Yeah, that's about 100 million. And currently, the Shadowfire average is around 2.3 billion. Even 2.3 billion is rank 2 right now. I think R4 Meta Eira can bump the score by about 1 billion extra. So maybe you can reach 4 billion average in Shadowfire. Alright, moving on to the next boss, Shadow Glow. Meta Eira does break this boss as well. Once again, I'll show you 2 teams. The first one is without Shren Pin, because once again, it's really important for you to have R2 Shren Pin. You can swap out Shren Pin for an R0 Zihi. If you don't have a Zihi, you can also put in Yujing, or if you don't have Yujing, you can also put in Sakura. It's a lot safer. But R0 Zihi is going to be the next best option if you don't have an R2 Shren Pin. This time around, R6 Unas does make a pretty big difference, because his R6 does give more speed to Lapis, which translates to more damage because she is a speed scaling Esper. So for the build, you're going to be using Meta Drew on the Relief set. Meta Eira will be on the Astral set. Zihi will be on Harmony set. Lapis will be on a faster set this time around, because you want the team to cycle properly. And then Unas will be on Relief set. Lu Sheng will be on Astral set. So for Shadow Glow, what Meta Eira brings is an easier time for you to stack up Meta Drew's S1. And also her S3 will call in Lapis for S1, which can do like upwards of 10 million damage during the multiplier phase. And if you proc an Astral with Meta Eira, that's 20 million damage from the assist alone. But again, most of what she brings is going to be an easier time for you to stack up your S1 on Meta Drew, because Meta Drew is just way too broken. The ability to defense lower a boss that cannot be defense broken is always just going to be meta. By running Meta Eira on your team, you can have more assist, so you'll have more runs where you can reduce the boss's defense to 0, pretty much ignoring defense at that point. So right now my Lapis is already doing 17 million with her S3, and her S1 is doing about 5.5 million. 7 million with her S1, so 20 million with her S3, and there we go. 573 million with this team. You can definitely go higher. The highest I've seen this team go is about 800 million. And now let me show you Shren Pin. Again, her most important resonance is going to be the R2, so that you don't get stunned. Her R6 is not as big of a boost as you would think. So with this team, you can now get Chariot buff and Horse buff on your Lapis, which will allow her to hit for infinitely harder. And her S1 is also really good because it can AP push the team so that you can cycle better. Again, when it comes to Meta Drew, you just want the team to cycle as many turns as possible, to the point where you can ignore the boss's defense, right? That is going to be your biggest damage boost that you can get from Desolate Lands at this point. If you don't have Meta Drew, your score is going to be 500 million lower. So Meta Drew is still like the crux of the team. Meta Eira is mostly just here to provide more support for you to get more S1 on your Meta Drew. Oh, I also forgot to mention, this team also does not have a healer, so you need your Lu Shang to be tanky enough. Your Eira does not need to be tanky at all because she ignores defense or ignores damage. But it is very important for you to have a tanky Lu Shang because you want him to be run on the front. You can also make it work if you want to run Lu Shang in the back, but that way your Meta Drew dies too often and you don't actually want him to die too many times. There we go, 800 million. Because think of it this way, if he dies, then your uptime on your S1 or Meta Drew will be way lower. Which means there's more runs where you don't use his S1 enough times for you to ignore defense. And the ignore defense is way more important than getting damage buff from the revive mechanic that you have with Meta Drew. So with this team, it is way easier for you to get like 1 billion average on auto. I think I've had a run where I got 3 1 billion runs in a multi. I think this should be a 1 billion run. Close though, it's gonna be really close, about 900 million. Okay, 840 million. So yeah, the most important resonance is going to be R2 Shenpin. Meta Drew's resonance does not matter at all. His resonance does not matter. Her resonance at R4, it can definitely be better. Lapis R6 is definitely gonna help a lot. R6 Unas also helps a lot, but you can still run this team at R0 Unas, and Shenpin R2 would be sufficient. If you only had an R0 Unas and an R2 Shenpin, your score would be around 300 to 500 million average. If you don't have a Shenpin, again, you can run a Zihi, or if you don't have a Zihi, you can also run a Yujing. And the way you set up this team is going to be Meta Eira is going to be the lowest HP, so that you can tie up Meta Eira with Yujing's buff. That way you can start spamming her S3, and you can get more S1 on Meta Drew. So with Meta Eira and Shenpin in Shadow Glow, the average right now is at almost 900 million. So yeah, Meta Eira completely broke Shadow Fire and Shadow Glow. Shadow Fire went up by about 1 billion, 1 billion plus, and Shadow Glow went up by around 250 million. I did a bit of testing with her on Counter Sonica. It didn't really work out too well. The best score I got was around 140 million, but that took like almost 100 attempts. And I also tried to run her in the Elite team. It didn't really work out too well. For now, I've settled with Meta Eira in Team 1. But this is also a really whale heavy team. You do need to have an R4 Meta Liling for this to work. Otherwise, this team will just fall apart. So for now, Meta Eira doesn't really work out that well in Counter Sonica. I think she can work out pretty well in Dark Starlight or Forbiter if you run her in like Lapis or Sloan team. But again, for Counter Sonica, she doesn't really work out that well. So yeah, that's about it. Again, remember to put either your Discord ID or your email in the comment section. And in the next video, I'll pick 10 random winners for the gift codes. That's about it. Ciao.